Congratulations! So you just got your first invite to a dental school interview. So now what? As you guys all know, dental school interviews are super crucial, but at the same time, you pass the criteria based off your paper stats to get into dental school. That means your GPA, your DAT score, all the volunteering you've done throughout undergrad, and everything else in between on paper. But now it's time to see if your personality truly fits the program and if you can talk face-to-face to somebody without seeming like an awkward person. So what I'll do in this video is I'll go ahead and I'll give you a few quick tips to improve your interview skills. So what I understand is that many of you are super nervous about talking up yourself in front of others, and that's totally normal. And I do want to shed some light on that. The year before I started dental school, I took a year off and I applied to a lot of jobs. And what I realized was that my first interview for a job, I was just as nervous as I was for my first dental school interview. And essentially, that's something that can be expected because you essentially have to sell yourself to somebody face-to-face when you're put on the spot. And that can be very nerve-wracking for a lot of people. So one big tip I would give somebody is if you truly want that interview setting experience, apply to a lot of jobs before you actually go to a dental school interview and go to those job interviews just so you can practice talking to somebody who puts you on the spot, asking you why they should essentially hire you. And if you think about it, that's the same thing as an interviewee at a dental program asking you why they should accept you to that program. Another thing that's super important is know your application inside and out. I would suggest reading your personal statement and your application a few times before you head to that first interview. And the day of the interview, make sure that you smile, show confidence, because that's what a smile truly does. It shows that you're a confident human being. Also make sure to introduce yourself to everybody you meet, whether it be fellow interviewees, faculty members. Strike up a casual conversation. But just as importantly, you really want to make sure that you're nice to the staff you see. So that means if you see a janitor, say hello. Because at the end of the day, remember, the moment you walk into the school is the moment your interview starts. So this goes a long way to show your personality. You never know who is going to be asked what they thought about the interviewees that walked in to the building that day. So be nice to everybody and be charismatic and conversational with everybody that you meet. So now you're actually in the office interviewing. One big thing I would say is to pick up on things in that office that you're interviewing in. Essentially, if that's the office of the person who is interviewing you. And reason being is because you can pick up on a lot of clues that you can casually talk about. So that means pictures, art that's hanging, or a cool sculpture or something like that. Definitely ask the interviewer about that piece of art or that photo or whatever it is that you see if it's their office. And that's super crucial because, as I said before, the whole point of the interview is to see if you can talk to somebody face-to-face, if you can essentially put patients at ease, if you're somebody that people would like to talk to, that they have a good time talking to. So that's why you do want to talk about those things, not necessarily just interview questions, because if you're having a great conversation with somebody and you're building rapport, that interviewer is going to remember the conversation at the end of the day. So ask the interviewer how their day is going. If it's a Monday or a Tuesday, ask them how their weekend was. As I mentioned, you want to focus on things that is not just dental related. So if they went fishing or whatever, bam, that's something that you can talk about. Ask them about that. Because as I said, the interview is all about building rapport. So if you leave a memorable conversation with that person at the end of the day, they're going to remember you more than other people that they were interviewing that day because they had a great time. Think about it for yourself. Like when you speak to multiple people that you speak to throughout the day, there are certain conversations that you remember more so than others. Why is that? It's because they left an impression on you. And that's exactly how dental school interviews work as well. So at the same time, it's super important to actually be prepared for potential questions that can come your way. And if you did poorly in a course in undergrad, make sure you're prepared to talk about that. Be honest why you got a certain mark in that class, whatever the class may be. But also explain how you learned from that situation where your grade wasn't so good. How did you overcome that? What sort of lifestyle changes did you make that you are no longer confronted with those types of situations as to doing poorly in a class? Be prepared to talk about your strengths as well. For me, I would definitely recommend to use words like foresight, vision, and for every word that you choose, whether it be 2 or 3, definitely expand on that. But expand on it in the sense to how that would help contribute to making the program a better program if they accepted you. Also, be super prepared to talk about weaknesses, but I would say to pick a weakness that can be turned around into a strength, because you definitely don't want to dwell on your weaknesses, but at the same time, it shows that you are level-headed and you can analyze yourself at the end of the day and figure out when you need to make certain changes to your life. And that's something that people are definitely looking for at the same time when they're choosing people for a dental program. I also got questions about why the school. So definitely do your research and be prepared as to why you want to go to a certain dental program. Is the school really good at research? Is the school clinically very strong? Don't just say, oh, the school's in a big city if it is, because that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean you actually know anything about the program. So talk up the program and incorporate how you could potentially fit into a setting like that. Also, another question that many of you might think is random, but I did get asked at 2 of my interviews was if I like to read and what do I read when it's not a biology book or something school related. So if you don't read, I definitely think you should, because knowledge is power. But like I said, if you don't, Spark Notes a book and talk about the theme or something like that. And at the end of the day, that should be good enough to get you through. Dental school interviews, you might even be asked, what is the most challenging thing you've ever had to overcome? So whatever that moment is in your life, turn it into how it made you a better person. Some schools also ask about current events, so at least be aware as to what is going on in the world around you. Super important. Another question you can definitely expect some schools to ask you is, what are your thoughts on the changing landscape of dentistry? So be prepared about that, but also what is access to care? So I would do your research about what access to care actually means, and I'm assuming many of you actually do know what that means. So do research on that. How can dental schools change to improve that, or just talk about the improving trends? That shows a lot of insight that you are thinking about others, but at the same time, you are thinking about the future of dentistry and how it can be positively and negatively impacted if certain things don't change. And interviewers really like that stuff. Every school I interviewed at, I got asked that type of question. And another thing you can definitely expect at the end is, if you have any questions for the interviewers themselves, you definitely do not want to say, no, you're done, that's it. Ask questions. The more questions, the better, because that allows you to potentially have more tangents that you can talk about random things that show that you're a charismatic person. But when you are asking questions, ask some certain questions along the lines as to, when do students get to pick up a handpiece and start drilling? Also ask the interviewer, if they could change anything about the program, what would they change? And if you're spending some time in the city, definitely ask that person what they would recommend you to do for the rest of the evening or for the other day that you're spending time in the city. It shows that you truly want to get a feel for the city, and like I said, it could potentially open the door to other tangents that you want to talk about. And remember, as I said, tangents are super important because they show that you are a charismatic person and that you can hold a conversation about any topic. And they like that because at the end of the day, dentistry is a business of dealing with people. And if you can put a patient at ease, you can convince them to get treatment that they truly need, it's going to help you at the end of the day. And they're going to like that. So take advantage of those opportunities. And with that being said, I hope this short little video helped you guys out. Please go ahead and like it. If it did, subscribe. I'll be putting out a lot more awesome videos. And at the same time, if you guys have any more questions or want any more practice, I do offer Skype sessions that you can definitely contact me about, and we can try to set something up for you to practice a little bit more, go a little bit more in depth. But with that being said, good luck everyone, and I hope you guys all get into your top choice.